Hi, I'm
Are
Sir
we
Rahvin.
good?
I've been fighting in
Oh,
Balagarth for about 15 years, and today we're going to look at fighting one-on-one against the shieldman when we have a spear.
one moment.
So
Is
while we wait
this
for people to get in, I want to tell you one of my...
1 second? Is this the official
pause.
start or is it still testing?
Oh, we are ready to start. Sorry.
Okay, let me get the slideshow going, and I'm going to start recording. So I'm going to start recording now, and then I'm going to drop your slide for informational purposes, and then I will give you the signal to start. So
Sorry about that.
recording. You're all good. You're overly prepared, and, and I love it. All right, so we are at.
I'm a go-getter.
So we are doing 1v1 spear versus sword and board with Sir Rahvin. And we are ready when you are, Sir Rahvin.
Hi, I'm Sir Rahvin. I've been fighting in Balagarth for about 15 years, and today we're going to be looking at how to fight against a shieldman one-on-one when we're armed with a spear. So while we wait for people to get in, I want to tell you about one of my favorite stories. It's about a British sailor named Richard Peake. He lived in the 1600s. And England and Spain were at war at the time. And he and his crew went south to deal with some pirates. And on their way home to England, they stopped off in Spain to make a raid and look for some food. So Richard Peake was looking around for oranges. He got confronted by a knight, killed the knight, but then he got arrested by the knight's bodyguard. At his trial, he and the judge got into it. They gave him and the bailiff swords, and he disarmed the bailiff. He then made the very bold claim that if he was armed with his country's national weapon, the quarterstaff, and mind you, the British use their quarterstaff very much like we use our spears in Balagarth. He made the claim that with a quarterstaff, he could fight up to 6 men and win. The Spanish said he was ridiculous and said, "We'll give you 3." They set up a fight. He ended up killing one of his opponents at the very beginning, backed the other 2 into a corner where they conceded the match, and he was declared the victor. The Spanish then paraded him around the country, gave him much money, and sent him back to Europe, or to Britain. So, a bit of a different time back then. But the point of this story is that spears are awesome, and when we have them, we shouldn't have to worry about too much. Now, but because of our rule set in Balagarth, it has typically been the convention that the way to beat a spearman is to have a shield, run up in his face, and hit him. Now, that has always frustrated me, so I've devoted a lot of time into figuring out how to even up that fight. And even if we don't win that fight as a spearman, there is value to taking at least a piece of the shieldman as they kill us, maybe an arm or a leg. That's going to definitely slow them down, or just take longer to die. If we're in a situation where we're left holding a gap in our line, because some reason people think we can do that, there's a lot of value into taking a couple of seconds to die right on the line, as opposed to allowing someone to blitz straight through our line and get into our line's backs. So little things like that can make a big difference. As we demonstrate these different techniques, please feel free to jump in with questions. I love questions. I can't actually hear anyone, so please route your questions through Araya. She's got a headphone, or if you put them into chat, that would be more convenient and she can convey them to me. So we're going to start out with one of my signature styles. I call it floor and spear. And this one, I just pull out a sidearm sword and I killed shieldman with it. This one is actually pretty good. You can turn most any fighter into a prolonged fight. And you can even start winning 2, maybe even 3-on-1 as you get good at this. So we're going to start off looking at our stance. We're going to have our sword leg forward. I hold my sword high up in the air. And I have this spear low. We're going to get into more detail on this right after I show you the sequences. And from here we have 2 sequences. I can swing, stab, swing, or equally as complicated, I can stab, swing, stab. And that's about as complex as it gets. If I want, I can make my second swing come over at the sword arm, but you should never open your swing at the sword arm or it's gonna take this shield, drift it over to their right, and close off my spear's attacking angles. If you want to aim for the legs, if you aim for a leg with your sword, you might hit it. You will almost certainly die. If you aim for a leg with a spear, you'll probably hit it, but now you have a much smaller target to fight, so be careful with that. Kind of read the line. All right. So looking at the nuances of my stance, I hold this sword very high. It's a very British guard. A lot of people, they want to default to your aim frame, and I don't recommend this for a couple of reasons. Number one, shieldmen know what an A-frame is. They love fighting against A-frames. They know exactly where to hit you. Number two, your sword is out here, and it's ready for them to control your sword with their own sword. And we don't want that. Because if they control our sword with their sword, they'll only have to worry about our spearhead. So when we have this sword held up high, it's going to do a couple of things for us. One, it gives us really good attacking angles as we descend down on.
All right, everyone. It looks like Rahvin got kicked out of the Zoom meeting, so we are going to give him a moment to come back.
On this note, may I take a second to cover things that he might not?
Let's save that for at the end and discussion with him since this is his class.
Absolutely.
Sin, are you messaging Araya?
Yeah, I'm working on
Okay.
trying to get a hold of them,
They
figuring
may
out
not,
what's going on.
They may not even know that they have been lost.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. Javi got him. Oh no.
opponents are accustomed to an A-frame. They know exactly how to beat this. They control the weapon with their weapon, and then they spam us with shots that we can't block, and they power block our spear with their shield, and that's all there is to that. So when we hold this guard up high, we accomplish a few things. Number one, we've got really good attacking angles as we come in on this shieldman. Number two, they can't control my weapon up here. This swing will come whether they like it or not, and they have to deal with that. And the last thing is when my weapons are apart like this, they have to view one of them out of their peripheral vision. They can't see both with their main vision. And I find that's very handy. Getting to this spear, we want to hold it in a manner so that our spear and our sword reach roughly the same distance when we do this. We're only as dangerous as our shortest weapon, so we don't want any waste. We're going to hold our spear so it's just slightly point heavy. And I've got this marked with a piece of tape so I can feel where that is. The reason that we do it so it's slightly point heavy is it's going to give our spear a little bit more weight when it's stabbing, and we'll need that when we're one-handed. Additionally, when people hit our spearhead to try and control it, all we have to do to bring it back online is float this elbow out. If we're holding our spear at the balance point, then when people hit the spear, that elbow trick doesn't work anymore. And all of a sudden, all this weight is torquing on our wrist as we try to bring the spear point back. And that's not good for your wrist. So that's what we want. On some of my spears, I actually add a little bit of weight to the pommel to make sure that this balance point is correct. When I'm holding the spear, I hold it chambered back by my hip. This conceals my range, and it doesn't present my spear as something that they can mess with. So they've got to really get into my space before they can control my spearhead. And my thumb, I hold it along the spear like this. I do not wrap it, and this gives me some more point control. There are a few very important things that we want to remember when we're fighting like this. We are a glass cannon. We have very little in the way of defense. So we want to be the ones controlling range. We want to be the one attacking first. And ideally, we're going to kill them very quickly. Because I don't have a shield to hide behind, my shoulders are freer to turn than theirs are, because I don't have a shield to expose myself out of. So that means I'm going to get my first and second shot for free, because I've got probably about 2 inches of range on them for using the same size sword. My third attack is going to come in at the same time as their first attack comes back on me. And if we give them space to make their second attack my fourth attack, the fight becomes very messy and my survivability plummets. So definitely try to end this early, and definitely make sure that you're the one advancing on him, not allowing him to advance on you. If you're backing up while trying to fight this, it's not going to work. So once again, to reiterate, we can swing, stab, swing. We can land our second swing over here if we want. If we're trying to block an attack that's coming in on them, best thing to do is to attack their weapon in about this range. That's going to often open up their shoulder so we can hit it. And then the second sequence is stab, swing, stab. And of course, we're always aiming for this little hip pocket right there, weakest point of any shieldman. All right, let's move on to my second method of fighting. If for some reason my sword is gone, or I don't have time to pull it, then I can switch to a thumb's inward grip. So it looks like this. I will present my left leg forward. So I've got left hand on the back end of the spear, left leg forward. It's going to feel a little bit weird because we normally don't fight like this, but it's going to work out. And I'll line up like so. I'm going to point my spear behind the shield at their right shoulder. And what I want is for my buckler to hide my hands from their view. So from here, they shouldn't be able to see my hands. And again, I'm going to want to initiate the attack and control the range on this one. And so to do so here, we start by making a thrust high, so that way they see our point and they become very aware of it. We dip it low, as if we're aiming for their legs. We want this shield to have some movement out of it, and low movement is the best. And then once our spearhead gets roughly 15 inches away from their shield when it's low, they can no longer see the spearhead. And then the magic happens. So, just like before, make this up here so that they concentrate on the spearhead, dip it, they think it's going for the legs, and then we're going to take our hands, we're going to spin them so that the spear rotates around this point here. Looks like this. And then we come in on this wide out angle and we aim for the ribs. And we just drive that in behind the spear, or behind the shield. And so a little bit faster, it's going to look like this. And full speed, here's how it looks. And this one is nice. The spear tip makes that circle very quickly, so it's very hard to follow. It comes in on a great angle, so it's pretty hard to block. They really got to commit into that block. And if they're trying to run in and blitz us, and then we suddenly step into them, the distances close so fast that it's hard to have time to react. So that's a really good one shot that you can use. If you miss it, you're dead. So try not to do that. If you went down fighting like a man. That's my second preferred method. My other method that I can show, let me flip this around so you can see my forehand side. This is kind of the Wolfenstein method of spear fighting, one-on-one. And this is for your traditional right-handed person. So you'll notice right hand on the pommel. And what he does is he'll back up and alternate thrusting between the leg and the sword arm, hoping to tag one of those. He does it pretty well. So if I were to interpret his method, what I would do is I would shorten my grip on the spear to make my tip easier to control. And I would move my hands a little bit closer together. And this will give me more range in my thrust. If we have our hands far apart, we get very little range out of a thrust. So here we've got a really good motion. And then you'll just alternate between legs and arm as they try to swing at you. Try not to hit them in the head. And that's an effective method for when you're a right-handed spearman. So those are the three methods that I wanted to go over. We'll open the floor to questions. We can ask questions about this topic. We can ask questions about anything regarding spears. While we wait for questions to come in, let me quickly show a way that you can do my first method, the floor and spear method, even if you're a right-handed person. I get asked questions about this sometimes. So it can be a little bit awkward having our right hand on the pommel of the spear and having our sword want to be right-handed as well. And the solution here is pretty simple. We'll just take the spear, slide it through our hands, and switch it on the sides of our body, and pull the sword and then you're ready to go. So it takes just a half second longer to do it then. So just like that. And then just practice one thrust in at their hip with your left hand. It'll feel a little weird. You'll probably end up killing them with your sword. That's just fine. Okay, we have a comment from Spriggett.
Sorry, I'm trying to use the hands up option and be polite. So I come from the previous era of spear users, and you have elevated far beyond me. One of my best tactics, spear versus sword and board, is standard stance as a right-handed. You basically just raise a spear left hand to block all sword side attacks and grapple. Any thoughts on that?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your first part. So you're saying block their sword and grapple them?
Yeah, use spear as raise spear in your left hand if you're primarily right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
So you use that as your left side shield, and then grapple people directly in response to your sometimes you get left alone and you're just holding a wall for however long.
Yeah, I've seen that work before. It's pretty funny when it does. I would be a little bit concerned about that. It's hard to kill them from there unless you have a dagger or something. So
yeah,
even
it's
if
not a
you
killing tactic, it's a prolonging tactic.
yeah, so even if you win the grapple, then you're still out of commission yourself.
I'll note, because I didn't get to Robin fast enough, Spriggett did start that comment by complimenting you.
Thank you, Spriggett.
You're pretty. I love you.
I do my best.
I think he's pretty too.
You know, I just surrounded myself
You're
with little
biased.
flags.
I am in fact biased. I kind of married the guy. From Sven, he wants to know, to what extent is your spear counterweighted?
Let me get a spear.
So to start with, Sven, I'll just put out all of his spears are constructed a little bit differently. He has a similar piece to it, but you can see he's got a small size spear that he's holding now, a bamboo spear, and all of them are just a little different.
So the way I build my band chop pole, it actually works out perfectly. The distance and the weight line up, and no counterbalancing is required. The bamboo spear works out really close, and so I just put a couple of washers in the pommel. This one here is a carbon fiber, so it is very lightweight. So that one does require a few more washers in the pommel. And yeah, I wrap the around part of my pommel, slap some washers on there, put some padding over that, and then tape it all up. Anywhere between 2 to 5 washers. And then this one actually has a lot of washers, because this one is kite spar, so very lightweight. This is the spear that I use when I'm fighting one-on-one in like tournaments or trials, and I want to make a point. So, and also if you want to learn this Lorn Spirit method, this is a really good way to start learning it. Walk out on the field with a 5 to 6 foot spear, hold it by the pommel, and just call yourself a Florentiner and see what you can do. And then as you get more comfortable with the way this just kind of feels, then you can shorten up that grip, and it's a good transition into fighting one-on-one in a more serious manner.
We do have a decent amount of time left. Robin, is there anything else you want to share us, or do you have any more questions?
All right, sounds like we're out of questions. So that's what I wanted to present today. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all the event coordinators who set this up and took time out of their day to make sure we could get some educational videos put out.
Thank you, Robin.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robin. Hello, welcome, Leita. Thank you so much, Robin. We are stopping recording now. And stopped. Lovely. If there is anyone that does wind up having some questions that did not get answered already, feel free to either join us in the after class discussion Discord, or I mean, you can also hang out and maybe talk here if that's what Robin decides to do. But other than that, we've got about a half hour until our next class starts.